There was a time when if water did not come into our house, we picked up the bucket and went outside to fetch it. Why? Because the water was somewhere else. Knowledge was once a little like that too. The teacher was somewhere else, the books were somewhere else, the library was somewhere else, the laboratory was somewhere else. Knowledge lived inside institutions. So every morning, the child traveled to knowledge. But then something extraordinary happened. Knowledge started traveling. First through books, then television, then computers, then the internet, then YouTube, and now artificial intelligence. Today, a child sitting in a bedroom in Kolkata can listen to an extraordinary mathematics teacher sitting somewhere else in the world. He can pause him, go backwards, listen again, slow him down, look for another explanation. And if the teacher still doesn't make sense, he can change the teacher. Try changing your classroom teacher in middle of period 4. That may require slightly more paperwork. But think about what has really happened. For thousands of years, information was scarce. Teachers were scarce. Books were scarce. Access was scarce. Today, information is almost embarrassingly abundant. A child doesn't necessarily have a shortage of explanations anymore. Sometimes he has a shortage of knowing which explanation to trust, what to learn, what not to learn, where to begin and where to stop. That is a very different educational problem. I started thinking about this while watching children around me. A class 11 student wakes up around 6 in the morning, gets ready, leaves home before 7, travels to school, attends classes, travels back, reaches home sometime in the afternoon, eats, rests, and by the time he feels like human being again, it is almost evening. Nearly 10, sometimes 11 hours of the usable day have revolved around school. And I began wondering what exactly did those 11 hours buy. Some of them bought wonderful things: friendship, a teacher who noticed him, sport, conversation, discipline, a laboratory, a disagreement with another child, and perhaps learning how to handle it. Those things matter, sometimes enormously. But some of those hours may also have bought traffic, waiting, transitions, fatigue, and explanations delivered at one speed to 40 or 45 different minds. And then something even more curious happens. The child comes home and goes to tuition to study the same physics, the same chemistry, the same mathematics that occupied much of the school day. Now I have a question. If the child has spent the entire day inside an educational system, what exactly is the second teacher completing in the evening? More practice? Individual attention? Examination strategy? Confidence? Or simply the opportunity to ask the question he could not ask when 50 other students were waiting? Perhaps all of these happen, which is precisely why the question matters. Because technology has introduced a possibility that previous generations simply did not have. A child can increasingly learn at his own speed. Pause when confused. Move quickly when something is easy. Repeat only the weak part. Ask another question. Ask the same question differently. And increasingly have a digital learning companion respond specifically to him. Does this mean the teacher has become unnecessary? No. I actually think it may make the human teacher more important. But perhaps for a different reason. Not merely to deliver information, but to notice the child, to inspire curiosity, to challenge an assumption, to create experiences, to bring children together, to recognize when something is wrong, to teach what no video can easily teach: how to live with other human beings. And this is where the question becomes interesting. If information delivery is no longer school's monopoly, what should school now become exceptionally good at? Perhaps that is the question. Not school or no school, not classroom or YouTube, not even a teacher or AI. Those may be false battles. Maybe the better question is, what should happen in the classroom and what no longer needs a classroom at all? We inherited a model in which the child traveled to knowledge. But knowledge has now entered the bedroom, the drawing room, the pocket. And when the location of knowledge changes, perhaps the architecture of learning deserves another look too. Maybe the future of education will not be determined only by the school a child attends. Maybe it will also be determined by how intelligently we design the child's day. What deserves a classroom? What deserves a mentor? What deserves solitude? What deserves a screen? What deserves a playground? And what deserves simply time? Because knowledge has already come home, the question now is, what should the child still go out to find? This is the Education Reset. I am Bajrang Kumar Garg, and you are listening to SoulStill Sanctuary, whispers that build worlds.